Maplestory the Novel, Season 1, Sacred Tears, written by Tatsumari Korisuno. Chapter 18, Respect. Stunned silence filled the room for what felt like ages as Dane tended to his wound. Tahir slowly clenched his hand opposite Dane, gripping the sheet hard enough that it began to tear on his fingers. Blood rushed through his body in molten waves as his hair stood on end. His eyes widened as he pursed his lips, sweat beading on his forehead. "You..."
"Pardon?"
Dane asked, finishing the dressing and looking Tahir in the eye. "You're the one," Tahir whispered. Dane lowered his brow, holding out his hand as a dark mist pulled from Tahir into his palm.
"I see. Your darkness holds much pain."
"Shut up! You know nothing of the pain you caused!"
Tahir seethed, trembling as his grip on the bedsheet tightened further, digging into his palm.
"How is it you come to blame me?"
Dane asked, clenching his hand around the small ball of mist until it disappeared.
You and those following you wasted your time escorting the rich when you should have been protecting us from the shadows!
Tahir rolled out of the bed, grabbed his dagger, and knocked Dane to the ground, holding the blade to his throat.
If you had been doing what you were supposed to, my wife and daughter would still be here!
With a swift wrench of his arm, Tahir ready to plunge it into Dane's chest, only to hit the ground when Dane teleported away.
Why weren't you there for her?
He screamed, lunging after him again. Dane palmed the knife away from its path, slipped it from his grip, and pinned Tahir face first to the wall. He said nothing as Tahir writhed and flailed under his grip.
Why?
He screamed, his voice eventually giving out from the strain and relaxing his struggle. Dane released him, turning him around with a serious yet kind stare.
"I know of your pain, for I've been there once myself. But you cannot let it consume you."
Tahir slumped, his hoarse voice speaking in only a whisper.
Why did you save my life? I was on the verge of seeing my family again. Why bring me here and keep me from seeing them?
"I didn't bring you here. I found you here on the steps of our chapel. An omen severely wounded you, and those wounds need careful treatment, or they will rot into the ash the way your arm had."
Dane sighed, retrieving the dagger he had thrown to the floor, holding it back to him handle first.
"Take a day and rest. Your journey has been long. When you have rested, you can leave or stay,"
he said as Tahir took the dagger back, and Dane left him alone in the room. My enemy and my savior, one and the same, he thought, staring down at the dagger in his hand. He was still furious, torn between his aching heart and sense of duty. In the meantime, he would take up the offer to rest. Tomorrow, he would try to convince the White Mage to return to Aurora and speak with his contractor merchant.
Master Dane, do you think leaving the weapon with him is wise? He did try to cut your throat with it just a moment ago,
Rhinne asked.
"Let him be, Varen. He has experienced a great loss, and he has yet to heal fully. The darkness has a strong hold on him, but he isn't beyond saving. We must do all that we can to ensure the healing of that wound,"
Dane replied, walking to his lab past the stalactite crystal chandelier that served as an information depository. As they walked, Mars's voice bellowing in the halls caught them.
"Master, I insist you do something about your daughter. She has interrupted my class numerous times today, making it nigh impossible to teach the day's lesson.
Mars huffed, dragging the late teen with him by the arm.
You've been teaching one of the fundamentals of general magic wrong. Of course I will interrupt you,
She said, flinging back her champagne hair and straightening her sky blue dress.
Rhinne, how often have I asked you to wait until after the class to voice your concerns?
Dane asked, putting a hand on her shoulder.
Enough times that I've lost count.
Rhinne pouted, crossing her arms and looking away from Dane.
I know you are more powerful and understand magic much differently, but you must remember that you are here in Euphoria. We don't have your abilities.
Rhinne pursed her lips harder, looking further away from Dane with an almost comical scowl.
Now then, what is this fundamental magic that Mars is teaching wrong?
Dane asked as Mars spluttered and stuttered.
Master, I have...
Dane held up his palm to him, silencing his protest.
Mars says all magic is only usable through rune sentences or visualizing the result, shaping it into the desired spell. But that's wrong. You're supposed to use mana from your life force to connect and shape nature's energies, and the whole process is called a spell.
Rhinne explained, swinging her hands in multiple ways to show diagrams of the human body and where points of energy exist within it. Dane studied the diagrams, comparing them to his knowledge of magic and how his master taught him. Rhinne's method was similar, but it required energies he thought didn't exist within the human body.
I am sure that your explanation is correct, but once again, you and your mother's powers are far greater and different than we humans here in Euphoria.
Dane explained. Rhinne crossed her arms and huffed, reluctantly agreeing to what Dane said, following some acolytes after being dismissed.
Fine. I can't believe this. What a waste of time.
I still find it hard to believe she's so grown up after only 9 years.
Mars muttered to Dane, watching her leave. Dane tensed when he saw Will approach Rhinne, putting an arm around her waist and walking with her down the hall.
Time moves faster while she's with her mother. She'll be wiser than all of us in a few years.
Dane replied distantly, turning for his lab once more, at which Mars and Viren followed.
Yes, but it's still hard to wrap my head around.
Mars answered.
Please excuse me, Master Dane. I have some business I need to attend to.
Viren called, waving to the two of them as he left. Mars's face lost all expression as they neared Dane's lab, speaking in low tones while Dane searched for his key.
How goes the research?
Dane sighed deeply, leaning his head against the door with a solid thud.
There is still much to know. I can't make it any darker. I can only add more. I can still produce light from it, but I have hit a wall in how much power I can gain. I'm sure I will surpass this obstacle in time.
Dane smiled, unlocking the room and opening the door.
Shall I have some food brought to you later?
Mars asked, at which Dane nodded and closed the door behind him.